If you had one question for Jesus, if you could get Jesus in a room and ask him anything, life, the universe, what would you ask him? Have you ever actually tested God? Have you ever really tested God? Or maybe the whole idea is just a little too frightening to even go there. It feels like we're told not to test God, not to put God to the test, not to demand proof, that doubt is bad. But that's exactly what Thomas does in our gospel. And I believe there are times in our lives when we do put God to the test. So today, you have one free question. You can ask anything. So what are you going to ask Jesus? I spent a summer as a hospital chaplain. And if I could have gotten Jesus into a room and asked him my one question, that would have been a very hard thing to do because I had a lot of questions for him that summer. Things for myself, questions about myself, questions that were bubbling up because of the people I was meeting and the situations and the struggles. And in the midst of that, on top of that, I then ran out of money, right? And it was worse than ran out. I owed money. I was in a hole. And so I was broke and tired and a little burnt out. And I had all of these questions about myself and my own abilities and about who God was, who Christ was. Was God even there? Did God really care about me? In reality, I can look back and say how lucky I was. I had cousins who were supporting me, and even though they couldn't afford it, I had a dad living not too far away. The hospital, while not paying us, gave us a transit pass and $5 towards food, so I had a place to live, I had food and a way to get to and from work. But I also had a lot of doubts about God, about Christ, about myself, and they all boiled down one day to one question. Okay, God, if you want me, if this is what you want me to do, you are going to have to help me because I can't do it alone. Now that was my question, or maybe my statement, but it was a test. I was testing God, not because I thought it was a nice thing to do, but because secretly in my heart of hearts, I needed to know, are you real, God? If you are really real, if you are the person I keep saying, the being, the more, the holy that I keep saying you are, if this is what you want me to be, if I'm trying to be what you want me to be, I'm laying it all out on the line here. Are you real? I need some proof. I need to know that you're here with me, because I don't think I can do this alone. It was my one free question that day. When have you ever tested God? And what happened? When have you needed to ask Jesus a big question, a deep question, and needed to get an answer? I love this gospel this morning. The disciples are in a locked room. They aren't ready to leave it. They aren't ready to live into and out of the resurrected Christ. That's not even a thought in their heads. And then Jesus comes among them through the locked door, breathes on them the sign of love in their midst, the Holy Spirit, a sign of love that never goes away and never leaves them alone. And he shows them his hands and his side. He gives them tangible proof that he is right there with them. They have an experience, a wonderful, beautiful experience, and are transformed and energized by it and then sent out, given the push to go out and be that beloved person with others. But Thomas isn't there. He doesn't get that experience. And he, and probably all of us in the same situation, thinks that they're bananas. And he puts Jesus to the test. I'll believe if I'll believe if I get some tangible proof, the same as you have, but Jesus is going to need to come to me. I'll believe if. And instead of that being a bad thing, Thomas being condemned or told to just simply believe, if you'll notice, Jesus comes to him. Jesus comes to him through locked doors. And he too receives this wonderful experience of God, of the holy, of the risen Christ. Now, perhaps it's not the one that he wanted, but it's the one he needs. Needs to find his own courage, find new life, to live into that identity as God's beloved, as the person God created him to be out in that wider world. And he isn't bad because he asked for proof or because he has doubts. He isn't bad because he had big questions that he needed to ask, because all of that comes out of his own deep need to feel connected and loved. And there are times in our lives where we need that tangible, deep connection. Serene Jones, the president of Union Theological Seminary, puts it this way: so too it is with us. When doubt crowds out hope, we can be confident that Jesus will come to meet us where we are, even if it is out on the far edge of faith that has forgotten how to believe. Jesus comes to us where we are, even if it is on the far edge of faith that has forgotten how to believe, that is doubting, that has those deep questions. Jesus comes to us right where we are. So when have you tested God? Ask that hard, deep, big question that lives in your heart and in your soul. When have you needed some sign of proof that God is really real and that God is there and cares for you? And what happened? We're often afraid, I think, to put God to the test, at least out loud. And by putting God to the test, I don't mean like the trivial stuff, like, I'll believe in you, God, if you give me an A on this test that I didn't study for. That's not what I'm talking about. But there are points in our lives when we need more. And they tend to be the places where we are stressed, hurt, desperate, lonely, where hope is being crowded out by something else. When we need an answer from God, whether we admit it to ourselves or not. What I love about this gospel is that it's clear that we're allowed to have these doubts, fears, to put God to the test, to ask for the proof we need. The experience of God we need, especially in those moments, because it's in those moments when, just like Thomas, God comes to us. Jesus comes through the locked doors and says to us, "Peace be with you." Now that's both reassuring and a little bit terrifying to me, because in the back of my head is always that question, what if I don't get the answer? Except every time when I've really needed to put God to the test, even a little bit or a lot, I've gotten an answer. Maybe not the thunderbolt I wanted, where God could pluck me up and put me down over here and take away whatever the stress and pain that was surrounding me, just take it all away. But when I really needed it, God has come through the locked doors and my own walls and met me where I was, over and over again. I get a phone call when I need it. One memorable moment, someone brought over a pie. Or in the case of my hospital summer, all of a sudden, I had the courage to suck it up a bit, swallow my pride, and phone my old boss, job I had left before going to seminary, and arrange to go back to work as soon as I got back to Vancouver. And then I didn't sink, because clearly I wasn't alone. God had answered me, And God was with me, breathing on me, the Holy Spirit saying, peace be with you. You got this. You're not alone. Thomas needed the experience of God to believe. He needed that proof before he was ready. Just as the disciples needed the experience of the risen Christ before they were ready to venture out and live into their identity of God's beloved. And so do we. Because doubt is a part of faith. It's not the opposite, but part of the journey. And there are times when we need to get Jesus into a room and ask our one free question, or ask for that experience or proof. We may not always get the answer we want, but we get an answer. Because, of course, God comes to us right where we are, through locked doors and the walls we put up. Jesus comes in and says, peace be with you. So what's your question? If you could have Jesus in a room and you get to ask any question at all, any piece of proof, what would it be? Amen.